Would you just look at these? I mean, just look at this plate. How gorgeous is this? Well, bottom line up front, that's what you're going to pay for if you buy Xmaster Fitness chrome steel plates. They cost $276 for a pair of 45s. You can get a 320-pound set plus the 38 pounds of change plates, so every single increment for $999. And you can save 5% with code VINTAGE and bring all of that down. You can save 50 bucks on the set, or you can bring down the price of the pair of 45s to $262 and change. I'm telling you all these numbers, I'm telling you the price because really, that's what you're going to have to think about throughout this video. Are these worth the upcharge for what they look like? And I'm going to explore all the different ups and downs, pros and cons of these wonderfully, beautifully chrome-plated steel plates. Please know that using code VINTAGE at Xmaster Fitness will help out the channel, but this is not an advertisement, this is a review. So I'm going to tell you some of the things that you should be aware of if you're going to buy these plates, and I'm also going to give you some of the competitors at the end of this video that have comparable plates so that you can make the best decision for you and your home gym. Now, with that said, please know that when I say upcharge for the look of these plates, let's just go with Titan Fitness. You can get a calibrated steel weight plate, 45-pound pair, well actually it's a 20 kilogram pound pair, for $150. So you're going from $150 for just a calibrated steel weight plate pair to $262 for this chrome steel pair. That's if you use code VINTAGE, of course. That is a significant difference. So that's the whole purpose here. Is it worth it? Who the heck is Xmaster Fitness? Well, I got a chance to see Xmaster at Home Gym Con, and Xmaster Fitness had a lot of really interesting looking equipment, as well as these chrome steel plates. Will from Xmaster was nice enough to do an interview with me. You can check out that video at the end of this video. I'll drop a little next up block for you to click on. In the meantime, just know that they were in the business for over a decade making equipment and plates and things for other companies, and they still do so, and then they started branding their own. The shipping on these was impeccable. I didn't bring these home from Home Gym Con. They were shipped to me afterwards, and you should know that, full transparency, that I did receive these for this review. The shipping, when I say impeccable, I've sent a lot of weights. I mean, being a collector of weight plates, I've traded weight plates all over the country and some other countries. And I can say what they did right here was they have a double layer cardboard. They also have reinforced tape. And then here's the kicker. This is like really impressive to me. They have this. Let me get out of here. They have this corrugated cardboard on the inside. And very impressive, they have extra of this padded cardboard going around the edges so that no matter how much the carrier drops and throws around this box, they've got you covered. And these were pristine when I took them out of the box. Now let's take a closer look at the plates. I set the Xmaster Fitness chrome calibrated plate down for a second, and notice I said the word calibrated. It got a little murky. I mean, at Home Gym Con, I said, "Oh, Will, do you have calibrated plates?" And he said, "No, these aren't calibrated. They are machined steel." Then the box arrived and it said calibrated. And I thought, well, wait a minute, are they calling them calibrated or not? And then on the website, it didn't say calibrated. Well, I can tell you, being a strength historian that I am, that calibrated goes all the way back. So Andy Jackson, this is a Jackson weight plate, vintage. This is a third generation, but it's an A1. If you know, you know. Right here, these weight pockets, these are lead pockets, all right? So Andy Jackson, you know, way back in the 1950s to 60s, came up with this idea of putting this lead pocket onto his weight plate so that if they came in just a little underweight, then he could add weight by putting lead into these pockets. You know, if they're overweight, it's easy. You just shave it off, you machine it, you know, lathe the back, for example, like this one. But if it's underweight, you got to add weight. So now let's fast forward. We get up to the 70s and 80s. There's Olympic weightlifting, but there's also powerlifting taking shape. Ivanko comes into play, and Ivanko has a widespread chrome calibrated plate. These are quite collectible nowadays as well. And they have discs on the back of them. Lots of different companies make this style of steel plate now with the discs on the back of them to calibrate them. But we also have several different companies that are using steel. With CNC machining, they can be very accurate from the start. IPF standards for a calibrated plate is within 10 grams, plus or minus 10 grams. And with CNC steel machining, it can bring a plate into that. And different companies, Rep Fitness, for example, now has a plate out. Xmaster has their plates that are steel plates that are cut so accurately that it's pretty close to calibrated. In my best opinion, it's better not to use the word calibrated unless you adjust the weight after it is produced. So I really like that Xmaster Fitness seemingly has dropped the word calibrated from their website, and they're just calling these what they are. They're chrome steel. And when you see how they are machined and when you see how accurate they are, that should be enough. In addition to the accuracy, you can probably see how thin these are. They are extremely thin, which when you combine that with the extreme accurate nature of the weight itself, it makes for the perfect competitive weight plate. So if you are a competitive weightlifter in any capacity, this might be good for you, a competitive power lifter, or if you just really like to know that in a sense of integrity, you're lifting what you are claiming to lift, you know, you're hitting those gym PRs and they're actually the PRs that you're looking for, then going with a plate like this is nice. If you're a monster of a lifter, having thin plates is really nice so that you can fit more onto the bar. On these Xmaster Fitness plates, you'll see the color strip. That's a nice feature so you can tell what's on the bar because the diameter is going to be the same for 25, 35, 45, 55. This particular style from Xmaster does not have the hand grips. I chose that because I just thought, I don't really have a lot of grip plates in my gym, so I'll go with this. There is a thin lip that goes around the edge, but I'm here to tell you, even as a competitive grip strength athlete, that's something that I do, a lot of grip strength activities. I cannot pick this up one-handed. I got to use two hands to pick this up because this little lip is good enough to kind of catch your hand, but it's not enough depth to really pick it up with one hand. So these are a two-handed effort right here. The machining is visible from the front and the back. This is not a polished chrome. We'll get to chrome a little later, but you can see the lines of the machining. And then right here in the center hole is snug to the bar. The center hole is 50.4 millimeters, which is in line with a lot of calibrated plates, such as Rogue Fitness's calibrated plates. So very snug to the bar. I'm not 100% sure how the lettering and numbering is put on here, whether it's kind of like a screen printing, if you will, or painting of some type. But I can tell you this much. I've been using these for about 2.5 months now, and it has not scratched at all, and I have not been that careful with these. I'll come back to that because I have scratched these, but the lettering and numbering hasn't scratched. So now let's get back to chrome. So these are chrome plated, but they're not just any chrome plating. If you've ever owned like a chrome plated barbell or chrome plated dumbbell handles, for example, and you see them chipping, that easy curl bar with chrome that starts chipping off, this is not that chrome. Xmaster Fitness does a 4-layer electroplated chrome that's 0.8 millimeters thick. That means that even when I scratch these, I didn't scratch through the chrome. Why does that matter? Well, because if you get through the chrome, then that's when rust sets in. And I can tell you from having weights that are 50, 60 years old, that when you get down to bare steel or bare iron, that's when you get rust and oxidation happening. So, although these might scratch, they are not going to get down to the bare steel, most likely, unless you really make an effort to do so. Now, I mentioned scratching. Here's how they are scratching. The machining leaves a little bit of a line here, and that little line that is visible, like if you drag your nail over it, you're going to hear it kind of thing. Let's see if I can pick it up. Well, that's going to scratch. So for me, when I was leaning these against the rack, changing out plates, when I was taking them off of the barbell and I accidentally like clipped the plate with the end of the barbell, stuff like that, I got a couple little nicks and scratches. Something to keep in mind, if you do drop the money on these, you might want to handle them a little more carefully than I did. With that said, the scratches are minor. They're hard to see from this distance. I have to do like a close-up B-roll just to show them to you. So I don't think it's a overall huge concern, but something that I honestly want to make you aware of. Now, the long-term concern with chrome would be chipping. For example, let me grab these. So these are my chrome-plated York deep dish, vintage York deep dish, and this is a painted front with chrome, mirror chrome around the edges, and you can see on the edges some chipping that occurs over time. That's the fear. But I can tell you right now, the chrome that's on these is so much thinner than the chrome on here, because this was probably aftermarket. York Barbell did not chrome plate any of their deep dish. Chrome came into popularity big time in the 1980s. So once again, back to Ivanco, the OMCs. So the Ivanco deep dish OMCs, that's the chrome plated version. Super shiny, super attractive to the eye. You've probably seen them before. If not, they might just come back. Ivanco put out a teaser saying that, oh boy, maybe the OMCs are coming back. Now that's a different video when it comes to deep dish. And Ivanco hasn't said that they're bringing back their chrome calibrated. So to keep in line with what we're reviewing here, chrome plated calibrated style, I guess I'll say, plates that are extremely tolerant and very thin, there are some competitors that are selling them right now. Actually, before I get to the competitors, I just have to go on a little rant. Look, fingerprints, they're going to happen with anything chrome that you buy. So I get it that some of you might not like that. Well, then chrome is not for you, okay? Please don't buy a chrome plated product and then complain about fingerprints. That's like buying a Lamborghini and complaining that it goes too fast. I mean, it's gonna happen. I just used a microfiber towel and just wipe this down before, filming any of my close-up shots. That's it. On their website, Xmaster Fitness suggests using a towel and some alcohol, like isopropyl alcohol, I'm assuming. And I didn't even do that. I just used a dry towel and it cleaned it up great. The only time you'd have to really worry about some serious cleaning products and restoration, stuff like that, would be if it is extremely oxidized, which wouldn't happen for decades and decades unless you gouge the heck out of this, which you'd have to try really hard to do, like I said before. 4 layers, 0.8 millimeters thick chrome plating. That is really good quality. So how do these compare on the market with price, quality, and style? Well, ATX makes essentially what look like the same plate. However, ATX does not distribute to the United States just yet, so shipping is going to be enormous if you try to get them shipped to the United States, maybe in the future. Hansu Fitness was making a very attractive looking chrome plate with a competitive price. Maybe you saw those on Basement Brandon's channel. Love you, Brandon. But it doesn't look like Hansu Fit is making those anymore. So then we come down to other plates that look just like this. And Gluck's Gym did a great job pointing out that like Kensui and some others like Warrior actually are this. So Xmaster still makes white labeled products, if you will. So products for other companies that they put their label on. So if you see a plate that looks identical to this one, like Kensui or Warrior or some others, then it actually is this one. It just has their label on it. And get this, if you go back to the source, it's cheaper. So not much competition there. Just stick with the company that actually makes them, Xmaster Fitness, and you'll get a better deal. So in terms of comparable competitors that are crafting plates of their own, we've got Rep Fitness, we've got Rogue. So Rep just put out a nickel plated. So it's technically not chrome, but it's in the same wheelhouse. It's a nickel plated, and they call it calibrated, even though I'm pretty sure that it's not adjusted after the fact, that it's CNC machine steel, just like this. And that comes in at $450. So with code vintage, this pair of 45s is $262. So 262, 450. Unless you're a really big nickel-plated enthusiast, maybe stick with the Xmaster Fitness. Rogue Fitness has a calibrated plate, and I do think they're actually calibrated because they look identical to their steel calibrated plates that aren't chrome. So the Rogue Fitness chrome calibrated plates come in at around $350, and they are polished, meaning that around the edges and on the lettering, it's like a mirror-like finish. That's really nicely done, Rogue Fitness. And then it has a painted face, kind of like the York deep dish that I showed a little earlier in the video. So these look very nice. They are a competitor, but they are much more expensive, almost $100 more expensive than these. So that's what you have to think about at home if you're going for chrome. Would you like something for $262? Or would you like something with a little bit of a different design look for $350? Lastly, in terms of current competitor plates that I'd like to mention would be Iron Bull's strength. Iron Bull has come on fast the past year with lots of products, and they do have a chrome plate that is a chrome steel plate just like this one. It looks fairly similar. However, a pair of 20 kilogram is coming in at $380. So that's more than $100 more expensive than a very comparable looking plate to it. So at this time, I'd say there's really no reason to buy Iron Bull when you can save over $100 and get the Xmaster Fitness plate. Iron Bull does have a Cerakote steel plate that looks very curious. I'd like to check those out, but that's a whole different ballgame when it comes to Cerakote finish, so we're not going to put those up against these. So to summarize all the competitors, if you really want nickel plated, maybe check out Rep Fitness. And the design features of that mirror polished chrome appeal to you for $100 more, you can look at Rogue Fitness. If you're looking for a chrome plated steel plate, you really can't go wrong with Xmaster Fitness and what this brings to the table. If you're scoffing at the price of a chrome plated steel plate in general, I totally get it. You know, they're not for everybody. There are lots of other options out there for weight plates. You don't have to spend this much on a weight plate, but if you want to spend this much, if you love the look of this, and by the way, the sound of it, I don't know if I mentioned that, like, when you use these, they're steel, and steel sounds differently. It's not the normal clang and bang of iron. I really like it. I think it's like a zen-like moment when I hear like this gong, like going off while I'm lifting. You know, it kind of brings a little calmness to my really sloppy walkout of my squat. That at least it settles me, like, oh wait, I need to stop bashing into the uprights and just get my good squat technique dialed in. So if that's for you, if you really want a chrome plated steel weight plate, then I think Xmaster Fitness is the best choice for your gym. Let me know what you think, drop a comment, and tell me how you feel about all these different options. Tell me how you feel about chrome plated steel versus any other type of weight plate. Thanks so much for watching. Please like, please subscribe, and if you're going to shop, shop through my affiliate links and use code VINTAGE at Xmaster Fitness to help out the channel. This is VintageWeightsPGH. Get in your gym, load up the bar, and lift these things.